So today I went ham on you guys this morning because I got all the photos back from the photographer from our wedding. And I had to have like a mini cry sesh to myself like on Wednesday. She sent them on Tuesday, but my site went down, so I had to like wait until to see them on Wednesday. Had a cry sesh on Wednesday. Because there were so many parts that, brides say this all the time, there are so many parts, it goes by so fast that there were many parts that I was like, wait, I didn't see that, or I don't remember it, or like it was just a blur. Wedding cake, I was like, when I got the photos back, I was like, oh my God, that's what the wedding cake looked like? I did not remember that. Or the Kool-Aid sign with the balloons. I briefly remember like taking pictures in front of it. So I was so excited to see the photos when the photographer sent them, and she did an amazing job. Karina of Love Me Do Photography is a local photographer here in Philly, and she has done pretty much all photography work for Madalynne. I take all my own photos, but when I need a photographer, I always go to her. She is just so awesome and so cool. So if you have a wedding locally, definitely check her out and all the other Love Me Do stuff, because they are like a big team. So I went ham on you this morning. I just posted a bunch of photos. And even though the photos looked beautiful, of course, thanks to Karina, I wanted to give you just a closer look at my wedding dress. And in real time, in video and stuff like that too. And a couple of you have asked, well, actually many of you have reached out to me and asked me questions about my wedding dress. One of the biggest ones was, how did I eliminate that horizontal seam on the skirt and create godets from that? So I'm going to show you how to do that. Another one that I have received a lot is horsehair braiding. I use a horsehair braiding at the bottom. And usually horsehair, you usually find it in like 1/2 inch. It's actually really hard to find in like 1/8 of an inch, 1/4 of an inch, and 1/2 inch. I found a great vendor on Etsy that sells all 3 widths and made a huge difference to the hem. Before, I tried on a bustle thing, the thing that you put underneath the dress, blanking on the term there, but it was awful. It was horrible. And I wanted a more flowy look than like a structured look. Pinafore, that's what it was called, a pinafore. So I wanted to do a horsehair hem. So I was able to find that horsehair braiding that I could sew into it. But first I'm just gonna kind of backtrack. So Ryan and I, to kind of give you a insight into like the design of my wedding dress, Ryan and I were originally supposed to get married in Hawaii on September 26, 2020. And when the pandemic happened, we were still confident, even though travel shut down for a couple months, we were going to wait it out, and then we did. And then when travel started opening back up again, we were still pretty confident that we would be able to do a Hawaii wedding. Hawaii at that time had like a total of like 600 cases in June. So we were like, that's great, we're still gonna be able to go. They also said that they were gonna lift their quarantine. So right now, actually, right now, if you go to Hawaii, you have to self-quarantine for 14 days, and it's not like a loose law. There are many visitors and travelers that have actually been jailed or fined because they don't follow it. So they were going to lift that on August 1st, and then 4th of July happened, and Hawaii opened back up, and their COVID-19 cases skyrocketed. And just going all throughout July, I was like nervous, but still hopeful that we would be able to go to Hawaii, because so much, if anything, if I've learned any lesson this year, it's that things can happen so quickly. So we're like, you know, it's July, we're getting married in September, we still have hope. And then when they extended the quarantine to September 1st, we were like, oh God, if they extend it one more month, we're not gonna make it. And then they did extend it to October 1st, which was a tough week because we had to cancel it. Luckily, being the planner that I am, when this was all going down in Hawaii in the month of July, I reached out to a couple vendors. All of the vendors were vendors that I had originally contacted before we decided on Hawaii. And one of them, Ridgeland Mansion, I reached out to her, the wedding coordinator, Jen, who is amazing. I said to her, you know, I hate to put you in this spot. We have a destination wedding. We were thinking of Ridgeland Mansion. We don't know if it's going to happen anymore. And we can't put down a deposit unless we get our deposit back or cancel. But we're not at that point yet. But do you have these dates available just in case that does happen? And she was so nice. She said, totally understand. It's happened to pretty much all of our brides this summer. We actually have September 25th open, and I can put a soft hold on it for you, and if somebody wants to claim that date, I will let you know when you have first dibs. Which was like just so amazing, because just the hectic and the unknown of what was going to happen was so stressful. So to have that in the back of my mind, thinking like, okay, we do have a plan B if Hawaii doesn't go down. And luckily when we canceled Hawaii, we booked her pretty much that week. But that meant that yes, I had 6 weeks to plan a whole new wedding and to cancel one. It was a little tough. Luckily I host like events all the time, and I basically reached out to everybody, cake, balloons, photo booth, and was like, yo, I'm doing a wedding here, can you do it? And they were all like, yes, definitely. So that kind of gives you like an insight into like the design of my wedding dress. The hardest part of canceling a wedding in Hawaii and then rescheduling it in Philly was like, okay, we were gonna do tropical wedding. How do I make tropical fall? So it was a little bit difficult, but I basically kept the beiges, mauves, and then just threw in some dark blues and greens. But if you kind of think of my dress as like it was originally supposed to be for Hawaii, and I was taking the risk of like, what if it was gonna be cold? But luckily, we lucked out on that date. The Saturday after, we got married on a Friday, the Saturday after, it like rained in the morning, so it would have been so muddy and just ugly. So we walked out with perfect weather, not a drop of rain. It wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold, and it was outside. As you saw in the photos, I posted. If it had rained, yeah, we would have had to have a plan C. So luckily the vendor did have a backup plan for a tent, just in case that happened. So that goes into the design of my dress. And if you didn't know, I found out that I had my mom's wedding dress shortly after I started making my dress. So I was able to incorporate tiny pieces into the design, even though it's not like a huge, I didn't, completely upcycle the whole dress. I just used the buttons. It was still something so that she could be there the day of. So without further ado, you want to see it? It's hanging up right there, so I'm going to go grab it. Ta-da! So this is the dress. A little backstory of the lace that's on it. I went and tried on dresses when I first, maybe like 2 months after I got engaged. And at that point, I was like, no way in hell am I going to make my own wedding dress. Absolutely not. Then I went to go try on dresses, and remember I was in the fitting room, and I was like, it was emotional, because like it's a moment that you think about a lot. And my mom wasn't there, so it was just like a bittersweet. And I was like, and then I was looking inside the construction, and I was like, yo, I could totally make this. And then the DIYer in my head started like buzzing. I was like, I have the tricot lining, I can totally get lace, I can get like a 4-ply silk, I got this. So then like my whole mood switched, and I was like making my wedding dress. Now, I fell in love with this Kelly Fontanini Adair dress, loved it. And I was like, I want to do it, but I want to do it sleeveless, still want to maintain the collar, maybe raise the waistline, add like a little rhinestone on there. That's the way that I work. I wanted sleeveless because I actually don't like wearing sleeved tops because it cuts off my tattoo. So the owner of the boutique was so nice, and I said, hey, would you actually I mean, can I buy that lace off of Kelly Fontanini? So she reached out to Kelly Fontanini and her team. It is a small team. And Kelly Fontanini got back and was like, we love this story and we'd be more than happy to provide you with the lace. I know I've gotten a lot of questions on where you can source this lace. You can't buy it anywhere. So it's from Kelly Fontanini's Fall 2019 line, which I have more of. I have a lot, which I might make like a cute jumpsuit or maybe like a skirt. I don't know yet. So this is the dress, and I posted some time lapses of how I sewed the bodice. So the bodice is the lace and sheer cup lining block fused together. And then there is another lining of sheer cup lining. I planned on making a Madalynne Simplicity 8229 bra to wear underneath, but once I made it and tried it on, I really needed like a molded nude plain bra, which I don't, if you know anything about bra making, you can't do molded cups. Those are like manufactured, so I had to go with like a ready-to-wear bra to wear underneath. But if you see on the inside, I will show you. So block fused the lace and the sheer cup lining, and then had another layer of sheer cup lining, which really helped to make it like very nude. So you really couldn't see if I was wearing a bra underneath or not. So if you see here, there is a lining. See that lining right there? But then this outer layer is actually that lace and sheer cup lining block fused together. So it's almost like two linings. So the collar, as you can see, I used like an invisible thread, but it was encased in the neck seam, and then this is all hand stitched and then shaped as well. The most difficult part was definitely matching, making the, with the bodice, was placing the pattern and then matching up the seam lines, which it wasn't. But I made my own goddamn wedding dress. I think that's pretty impressive. So imperfection's overrated. And then I actually added this belt. I had already made the dress and I planned on making like a sash, and it just wasn't doing it for me. I just needed like a little bit more. So this belt is actually from David's Bridal. I actually photographed some stuff for their social pages, and they had this. They sent it to me, and I tried it on. I was like, this is actually like perfect. So it's just a little bit dainty. So I actually stitched this on. I did not at first. I put the loops on the side, but then it just kept like drooping down. So I actually hand stitched all of these lace or these gemstones to the lace. And then the back here, if you see this, it's an invisible zipper. And then with these buttons from my mom's dress. Now, a couple of people asked me, like, is there anything that you would do differently? And yes, there is things that I would do differently. And there are things that I could have done better. You know, this wasn't like a perfect project, but I made my own damn wedding dress, and I think that's pretty awesome. The invisible zipper, I could have gotten a little bit closer to the zipper teeth. Some of the zipper tape was showing, which was like, in the photos, I was like, oh, Maddie, you could have done a better job. But again, I made my own wedding dress. I think that's pretty impressive. And I'm going to show it to you in the tutorial, but to kind of like backtrack. When I made my muslin, I'm going to hang this up really quickly. So when I made my muslin, I posted the photos. It was a skirt with a horizontal seam and then a flare going out. And I eliminated that seam, and I added actually 6 or 8 godets. I forget which one. And I'm going to show you how I did that. But so in the muslin, the godets really like, it was full in the front, on the side, and in the back. And what I'll show you is that where you add the godets and the fullness is exactly where it's going to be in the pattern. Now when I sewed it out of the fabric, the final fabric, I had completed, you know, my first muslin, my second muslin, and then I cut into the final fabric and I sewed the godets. There was a lot of directional sewing and it actually looked horrible. And I remember sending a video to my bridesmaids, which I don't have anymore because it was so bad. But all the godets, so basically like you could see you could see like drag lines from the godets, and it was just like so ugly. So I had to scrap that skirt. Luckily I bought extra fabric. I scrapped that skirt. I removed the godets, and I just added one big godet in the back. So if I had to like, the only thing that I think I did a great job on the dress, but there are two things that I would have done differently, is that I would have figured out a different way to add fullness to the front, because it's so full in the back. I just wish it had a little bit more fullness in the front. But perfection's overrated, so you live, you learn, and you move on. And the other change that I would make would be to get closer to the zipper teeth, and that's pretty much it. So I'm just going to show you also the fabric too. It's actually pretty white, right? I have a lot left over. It's actually pretty white, but once you put it under that sheer cup lining, it gives it like a beige look, which I think is actually better for my skin tone. The true whites, no. So let's move on to, let me show you the hem. And I made a second dress, which I will show you as well, because I actually haven't showed it. I only wore it at the after party, and like they weren't taking photos, and then by that point I was like, I'm not taking any more photos. So you guys haven't seen that yet either. But the hem of my dress got like destroyed. I can't even imagine if it had rained and like I had to be like in the mud. I've heard from some brides that like the bottom of the dresses were completely black. So let me show you this. So I'll show you the hem here. So this basically had horsehair in it. Sorry, it has like dirt all over it. Horse hem sewn in there. Usually, if you look for horse hem on like an Etsy or just a Google search, you're only, I'm back. You're probably only gonna find horsehair that is like a ½ of an inch wide. You don't want that for like I just wanted like something to flow out, but I didn't want to wear a pinafore. Yeah, whatever it's called. So this is the horsehair that I used in the hem. And I will post in my stories where I got it from Etsy, because she had it in a ½ of an inch, she had it in a ¼ of an inch, and she actually had it in an ⅛ of an inch too. So if you just want like a slight flare, it is really great to give like just the right amount of flare to help it like, to help shape it. So this is the horsehair that I used, and it was just a rolled hem, and that was it. So really easy. And then I will show you too. So I removed the godets and I just added one godet in the back. So this is bustled up, but let me take out the, so if you see here, there's just one godet in the back, one big godet. And I want to say it's like 40 inches wide, and that, just adding that made a world of a difference. I actually have a photo of it without it, and it's just, everything is pretty much flat. And then I was able to create like a train too from it, so it was really helpful. And here is the second dress that I made. So this is, I made this dress many times. It's my apron dress that's based off a vintage pattern. And all it is, I use the same lace on top, and then I used like a cream crepe. And then I made this really cute bralette to wear underneath, which is like completely not hanging right on the hanger. Let's see here. So I wore this at the after party. I changed into it when we got in the house. And this features like a French lace that I actually got from a vendor at a trade show. Just really simple, and it showed through underneath. And then I had this really cool hitch jacket from Nasty Gal. Nasty Gal has some great sales right now, that I bought for like 40 bucks. And I wore that and some sneaks to the after party. So yeah, it was really easy. And then after I made my wedding dress, I was like, I just want it easy, that I know how to sew, that I know it's going to be put together correctly. So it was a really easy sew. And I am excited, even though I finished that, I was so proud of myself for doing that. Just like mentally sticking it through. One of the hardest parts, I would say, was not the construction, but to have a sewing project on my sewing table for 6 months, because bras I make very quickly. So when and I can usually get out, like, sew a bra in like 2 hours. So to have something on, to be working on something for like 6 months was like, oh my God, when am I finished? So this is a great quick sew. And I'm really excited to get back to that type of sewing now that my wedding dress is finished.